Companies today are finding it increasingly difficult to engage with a workforce that no longer want to be paid for the time they spent at work, but rather for the productive outputs. What this means is that traditional balanced scorecard or KPI methodologies that average out employee performance fail to accurately distribute performers based on the value that they deliver to a company, and this is really driven by the lie of the average. If we consider the two distributions in the chart, both have exactly the same average performance level of about 200, 220. Yet the variability in outcomes is dramatically different. And this is something that companies need to focus on far more aggressively, is the consistency with which they deliver service. So the objective shouldn't just be to drive the average performance in their environment up, but also to reduce the difference in performance between their top and bottom performers. Interestingly enough, the key areas that are supposedly drivers of performance, namely recruitment, training and development, experience, whether or not you have the correct staffing model, actually account for less than half of on-the-job performance. 51.7% of on-the-job performance is driven purely by first-line management. That's how a person is measured, how they're incentivized, and most importantly, how they're developed and coached in line with the company's objectives. We've developed a unique metric that allows companies to measure employees in terms of return on investment. This is something that companies very easily measure in capital, what the return on in machinery and technology is, but something that's inherently difficult to measure for people. Companies are able through this metric to identify for the money that they spend on salaries per person, what is the return they get in productivity in line with all of their business objectives. It's also a unique metric because it's completely transparent that can be measured at every level of the organization, from entry-level staff right up to senior management. And basically, staff are no longer benchmarked against an arbitrarily determined set of targets, but rather against the value that they deliver to the company relative to one another. Implementing this metric in a leading mobile network call center allowed us to drive down the cost of service delivery from R24.86 to just R2.09 in 108 working days. This represented a saving in customer service delivery of R14.9 million.